Hello and welcome to GoldDust. I'm Kate Baxter, jewellery consultant and founder of GoldDust Collective, a community for ambitious, independent jewellers who want to build strong, distinctive brands. We explore the business side of the jewellery world through conversations with the people shaping it. Each week, I speak to founders, influential voices, and industry experts driving the modern jewellery landscape, uncovering the decisions, insights, and turning points that help brands grow. If you're building a jewellery business or simply want a deeper understanding of how this industry works, you're in the right place.
I was kind of in Paris, working at Cartier, being mind blown by this kind of world of luxury and what that even meant. And then at night, I was going to watch like pretty French boys play rock and roll in little clubs and going, oh, hang on a second, there has to be some way that these two things in my life can meet, which is basically where brand Hannah Martin came from.
Today, I'm joined by Hannah Martin, one of the most exciting, authentic, and dynamic jewellery designers working in the UK today. Her signature sculptural, uncompromisingly sexy style pioneered ideas of gender fluidity before it was much of a conversation in the jewellery world. While she was still a student at the world-famous Central St Martin's in London, she delved deep into ideas of a sliding scale of masculinity and femininity, how there could be and is something in between the two that doesn't fit into conventional boxes. And she set about designing jewellery that she refused to class as men's or women's. It was just jewellery. I've always hated the word unisex, she said. When I first started the brand, I actually called it men's jewellery that girlfriends can steal because I didn't know how to describe it. I just want to make jewellery not specific to any one gender. After a stint working at the bench at Cartier in Paris post-graduation, she did just that. Launching her namesake brand in 2006, Hannah trailblazed her way through the world of fine jewellery, designing collections that not only threw the rulebook out of the window, but completely rewrote it. Gemstones set upside down, revealing the spiky points, knife-edge bands on a ring, or a life-size solid gold handcuff set with yellow sapphires. Her sculptural, intelligent designs are always unmistakably hers. There's always a way to make even a simple piece your own, she says. As I design each piece that goes through the door, it will always have the Hannah Martin aesthetic, even if it's just a solitaire ring. With fans of her work ranging from Madonna to Morrissey, and designs regularly featured in the global fashion press, plus making the actual awards for the Brits Music nominees out of salvaged ebony and bronze, she could just be the hardest working woman in jewellery. Hannah Martin, welcome to the GoldDust Podcast. I'd like to first start by talking a little bit about what it was like at the beginning. You were living in London, studying at Central St Martin's, and you did a kind of internship at Cartier. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's right.
You really started quite big. Like those two institutions are huge in the fashion and jewelry world. How do you think that set you up as a designer?
I wouldn't be doing jewellery if it wasn't for St Martin's, because I didn't know that being a jewellery designer was a thing you could do. I mean, who knows that? I went to a local comp and, I wanted to do art, and in my mind, you had like 2D art and 3D art. I really liked the 3D art. So I was like, I want to be a sculptor. And I really had it in my head that I wanted to go to St Martin's. So I applied for the foundation course, which is the kind of year you have to do like a foundation course before you go on to do a degree in art. So I got into the CSM foundation course, and then that's where you kind of do like a little bit of everything. And it was like, I literally walked into the jewelry workshop and was like, oh, this is it. This is what I want to do, like pretty much. So that's kind of where I even found jewelry. So I sort of think without St Martin's, I would not be here for multiple reasons. It was an extraordinary experience, and also that's what then I won this scholarship at Cartier through being at St Martin's. It was in my second year, and I think the two of those things together is like, it's when everything kind of clicked into place. I think I'd sort of, in the first 2 years of college, you're kind of like working out what you are, also like just in life. Moving to London as a 17-year-old, you're dumped. There wasn't such thing as halls of residence. There wasn't anything. It's like we were chucked into London. I was given, because it was like not pre-internet, but like definitely pre-smartphone. So I was given a printed list of other people that none of us had ever met with phone numbers of people to live with. So we all like organized to meet up in like Covent Garden or something and like had a meet and greet and found our flatmates. I mean, it was such a kind of, at the time, I think it's naivety of youth. You sort of don't even think about it, but it's kind of a massive thing to do as essentially a child. And I think, yeah, I mean, it sort of formed everything I do. I think it was this sort of, I think all of us that ended up at St. Martin's were like the weirdos and freaks in our schools. And then you sort of find your crowd and then suddenly it's like everything came together. It was like, oh my God, there's other weirdos like me. Awesome. And then obviously like, I think the Cartier bit kind of played in because I was sort of working out who I was and what I was. And then I went to Cartier and that's like, I discovered what luxury was. Again, I come from like a very working class Yorkshire mining family, basically. It's like, we didn't have jewellery, any kind of jewellery, like whatsoever. I think I had my ears pierced because I wanted to look like the Lost Boys and bought like crap pieces of jewellery from Camden Market. That was my jewellery experience before.
We all did. Thank God for Camden.
Yeah, exactly. Thank God for Camden. It all started in Camden. Yeah, so I think going to Cartier and then discovering that whole world and then feeding that, then it all, yeah, basically I was kind of in Paris working at Cartier, like being mind blown by this kind of world of luxury and what that even meant. And then at night I was going to watch like, pretty French boys play rock and roll in little clubs and going, oh, hang on a second, there has to be some way that these two things in my life can meet, which is basically where brand Hannah Martin came from. So it was all really essential, I think, to like my growth as a kind of designer and understanding what I should and could do.
And also, without getting too political, isn't it just great how education in that way that it used to be a lot more accessible for more people can just change your life completely?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I can imagine having that exposure to, just working in Cartier, that's just like beyond so many people's imaginations.
I genuinely, without those things, would not be doing what I'm doing. Like I would, no way. Yeah. So thank you, St. Martin's and Cartier. And
thank you, St. Martin's. And what did your business look like when you first started? So when you graduated, where did you go? What did you do? How did you start?
I was like jumped in right at the deep end, not knowing what the fuck I was doing, basically, is how I started. I always say it was like such a punk, well, I think it still is a bit, but like that kind of punk DIY mentality. I mean, I honestly had no idea what I was doing. I actually got offered a job by Cartier and was like, I should probably take that. And I was like, no, I want to do this. It was like, I need to do my thing. So I think within the first year of leaving, I took part in this amazing program, which was run by Nesta, which is the National Endowment of Science, Technology and the Arts. And it's a lottery funded kind of huge body that exists now and funds incredible things. But there was this program that only existed for 3 years. Called the Creative Pioneer Program, and it was like super hard to get onto. It was like there was 25 people basically, and it's across every sort of science and art. So anyone that's a recent graduate that had a creative idea, you could apply for this program. And anyway, it was absolutely incredible. So it was kind of like business training for creatives and like understanding how a spreadsheet works. And we had like loads of, it kind of spanned across 6 months, I think. And it basically helped you build a business plan. I was kind of already making and selling jewelry, but this was what really helped me. And then part of the program was that you could pitch for investment at the end, which I got. And I think it was 25 grand or 30 grand, which at the time is like a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
And they still laugh at me today. I was always like, I spent mine the quickest out of everyone because I made a collection of jewelry and it basically went in 3 weeks, which is kind of the story of my life. And they still laugh about it today. It's like, Hannah, you win the prize for spending it the quickest. But that's how I made the first collection of like 18 karat jewelry that I launched brand properly launched it with. There's also another story that I tell people, I tell the students at St. Martin's when I go in now, just of like, because I had no money, like literally like zero money before, like for the first year at least. And I kind of like knew that I needed to get my stuff in magazines because I was like, that's how people are going to see it. It's like, how do you do that? So I went to Borders Bookshop, which was on Charing Cross Road, and they had all the magazines there, and there was like a Starbucks in there. So I bought a coffee because I couldn't afford to buy the magazine, sat there for a whole day with a little notebook and wrote down the names of all the editors of all the magazines I wanted to be in. Then I sneaked back into St. Martin's, used the St. Martin's post room. I photocopied all these lookbooks, sent them out to the St. Martin's post room because I couldn't afford to post anything. And basically that was how I got my first piece of press. So it was like Sunday Times style. I can't remember who I sent it to, but then called it. So I mean, it was properly DIY. Like I was living off nothing. In fact, I think I was on benefits at the time because I had no job. And it was like, how am I going to fucking do this? It was old school, basically. So that's sort of how it started. I've never had a proper job. Like I've never worked in a company I never understood how anything worked. I've just made it all up, which in some ways is great. And in other ways, I probably wouldn't advise it for anyone starting out now, but I don't know. It's the way I did it. So it kind of explains a lot.
Well, it explains that you've made it happen for yourself, which I actually advised someone the other day to go and do that. I was like, look through the magazines and write down the names of the press and the editors and the journalists, because that's a really good way to find people. So yeah. And what collection was that you launched with, that you made using your grant?
It was the Only Rock and Roll collection. Actually, with the grant, I made two. So It's Only Rock and Roll was like the first collection, which really was my degree show. I developed that in my last year of St. Martin's, and I kind of tweaked it a bit and added things, but that's what I started with.
Wow. And you're still selling it. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. It's like some of those pieces, like the spurring, I've refined it, I refined it a bit, but it's essentially, that was what I did at school. I had such a clear, it's like I had such a clear vision of what I wanted at that time. So yeah, it's kind of nice they still exist.
That is nice. So you had that collection, and then the
Aguida Dorada, which is the sort of piratical one. So that was all I did. I think I did both of them when I launched, because I hadn't been able to afford to make anything in gold until I got that grant. So then I was like, amazing, I'm doing it how I want. And that was it then, no turning back.
And was it always going to be in gold? Did you ever consider using other materials or doing it another way?
No, I fell in love with gold at Cartier. And I've done a lot of kind of like, not soul searching, but kind of thinking a lot about my practice in the last, because it's going to be 20 years next year. So, and I've had loads of questions over the years of like why I do what I do and where that came from. And one of the things I think, why I still think making a gold bolt that goes through your ear is like rebellious and brilliant, is because like still I feel like luxury, the fact that gold can be that expensive and that precious and it comes out of the ground, still I find incredible. And I'm like, it's mind blowing. And then for me, it's like, because that's so special, and you make just a massive bolt out of it, it feels so rebellious, and I think that's kind of why, because I'm still amazed by this world of luxury and this idea that you can mix it with something really ordinary. I think that's what I still can't get over. And gold is just so beautiful, and I loved it as a material, and it felt so otherworldly that it was just always, for me, going to be that.
Do you think it was easier? I mean, it didn't sound super easy, to be honest, but do you think it was easier for jewellery brands to launch back then in 2000 and 2006?
It's interesting. In lots of ways, yes. I mean, I think living in London was probably relatively a bit cheaper, but in terms of, I don't know whether it was And, you know, I basically started the brand in 2006, and then there was an enormous global economic crash. So it wasn't exactly ideal timing. I don't know. And we didn't, you know, like the sort of social media, it was pre-social media, really. I mean, Facebook, it was pre-Instagram, I should say. So actually the opportunities for promoting without, you know, that what didn't exist. I think it's kind of chicken. I don't know. I don't know.
Was there anyone advising you? Like, you know, did you take any kind of professional advice about the direction of your business?
I mean, there was a lot of people that were helping me out in like terms of so I had an amazing mentor through the Nesta program, Andrew Wheatley, who I'm still is a very dear friend, and he's owns a gallery called Cabinet Gallery. So he was like Art World and has always been amazing kind of support in that. And then Stephen Webster was kind of amazing at the time. Theo Fennell also, you know, like I met those guys it was through St. Martin's, and they were very sweet. Everyone's always got an opinion, and there was a lot of people with opinions, and sometimes I followed them and sometimes I didn't. You know, like I had a sales agent for a while. You know, you kind of are finding your way. And in the end, I think my advice to anyone is like, you kind of have to, it's good to have advice, but actually every business is different and every person is different. So actually you end up having the best thing is what feels right in your gut. But there were people that had my back, you know, and like, you know, Sian Evans, amazing. She's was incredible. And like, you know, I kind of must have been so annoying. I basically just half took over her workshop and was like, you know, there was a lot of people that were incredibly amazing and supportive of what I was doing.
And in terms of your design and your design process, so you work in such an interesting way that I honestly don't see many or even any other jewelers doing. And basically, for those who don't know, all your collections start with this character, like a person, and this world you create that they live in. And you paint a really, really vivid picture of that character, whether it's like a pirate, like you said, or a gangster or rock star. And then you like build this world around them, which must give you this really full and like rich universe of inspiration to kind of pull from. Can you tell me a little bit about that process? Like, how does it start in your head?
That way of working, I really discovered at college at the beginning of my third year. And it was kind of my solution to like blank page syndrome of like, up until that point, you have set projects. You're told basically what the outcome needs to be. It's a very kind of safe environment. You get to the third year and it's like, right, guys, you've got a year. It's all yours. Do what you want. At which point you're like, what do I want? Who am I? Oh my God. So it was kind of like, and I'm like obviously a very visual person. I also I've always like read, I love stories. I love films. I did a lot of creative writing when I was younger. So I love like losing myself basically in another world. So that was like I was like, okay, to get into this, I need to create a world that I'm inspired by. And then I found it really worked. So then I just kept doing it. The seed of the idea, I don't know where that comes from, but I always have a little something, like, I don't know if it's something I've seen. In fact, the Agrida Dorado, the pirate one, I know that where that came from because it was a conversation with Sian, and she was telling me about this archaeologist that she'd met, like an old, and she described him as this like old archaeologist, and he was wearing this like massive gold lion's head ring, and the way she described it was such a picture to me. So that's where the character, I just was obsessed with that image of this guy. In my mind, it was like Indiana Jones in the desert. You know, I sort of take something, it might be something that I've seen in a film or like walked past someone or something like lands, or even a moment, a feeling, something kind of starts it off. And then I always describe it like like this kind of process of expansion and then editing, like the whole way through this process. So it's like, if I sort of try to nurture whatever that little tiny seed is, I usually go, I've got boxes of like images and all these books and everything in the studio. And I also go to the St. Martin's Library still, because it's the best like visual resource library I've ever been to. try to empty my mind of absolutely everything else that's in it and just like absolutely use instinct as to like pictures that I feel, I don't even question why, but like looking for images that say something to me. I then end up with this huge collection like on my studio floor. And again, I do that. I sort of try and go into like a world somewhere, walk around and start editing them out with no kind of like, I try to have no preconceived ideas about what I'm trying to get to, what the jewelry is. I definitely don't start thinking about jewelry at any point in this process till much later. So then it's kind of like expansion and edit. So then when I've got the edit, I kind of like look and start to understand the story a bit more, probably do that again with images. And then it's like when I start sketching, I do the same thing. So it's like I'll give myself like 3 days and I'm like, don't think about jewelry, just draw whatever is coming from those images, and it's like shapes or whatever. And then I'll sort of look at them, edit them down. So I'm just doing that like the whole time, and having this world and sort of construct and like imagination around it is more helpful, is more about decision making in that editing process as much as anything, as well as like I need to feel excited by it. I need to have a character that I think is like amazing and sexy and brilliant, and like I'm really into this world and I want to be in it, because that means that I'm then excited about the jewelry. And also you can look at my jewelry and you can buy pieces of my jewelry without needing to know any of that shit, and hopefully they'll just speak to you for some way. So I'm also like, it's like people are interested in the stories, but then other people are just like, oh, that's a really cool ring and it looks great, but hopefully that's because I've imbued all of that stuff into it and they're feeling it without even knowing what it is. So I hope that's how it works. So, but it's a very, very in-depth process, and sometimes it's actually hard to not. I'm working on a new there's a new collection in the works right now, which is launching in October, and I'm at the stage where I'm trying to distill it to kind of explain it to my PR company and like the team and all of that. And actually I'm on like a 4-page document. I'm like, honey, you've got to cut this down, no one cares. Too much detail.
But I think that all that like backstory and research and like relentless use of the St. Martin's photocopier it's all so authentic, because it's all coming from you, even kind of before you know what it is. It's really, really intuitive, and you're kind of attuning yourself to this world and to all these, you know, images and books and stories and films, and just kind of like what comes to you it's so personal though. Do you feel like
it's so personal?
Do you feel that's a bit invasive or too exposing and private sometimes?
Do you know what? When I read the questions last night, I was like, that is the best question that anyone's ever asked me, because no one's ever realised that before. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a really vulnerable like process, and it is, but and again, when I've been kind of like trying to assess why I actually even do this, I think that's what I love about it as well, because it's risk, and it's like just that process. So working on this latest collection, I actually blocked out 3 weeks, and I was taking longer than that, but like to that starting point, I blocked out 3 weeks, and I was like, no one was allowed to come up here. It was like it made this bubble where I didn't want to communicate with anyone. I didn't look at anything that was going on in the outside world. It was like this kind of like 3 weeks of like gold, literally and figuratively. Within that, it's like this, it's such a roller coaster of emotions. It's like a kind of little mini stage of life, basically, because it's these highs and lows, and you have these moments, you're like so excited, and then like, oh my God, I'm like the shittest designer in the world, nothing's ever going to come out. You know, it's like this huge, and I think everything I love is about like, I chase like sensation and feeling and like wanting to like live on the edge of my emotions, and like it's why I love being in mosh pits. It's like all of this stuff that's really intense, and like the design process actually is that. I realized this only recently. And then the same with like the fact that it is so personal, and I'm putting this out in the world and putting myself in a really vulnerable position is also kind of a risk, and I sort of get a kick out of it. But okay, it's also really scary. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
From a business perspective, then it's all on you. It's all on your shoulders? I know you have a great team, but is that quite overwhelming, or is that the buzz that you kind of thrive on?
Both. It's like super overwhelming, and if I let myself think about it too much, it feels like a huge amount of pressure. But I do also have an awesome team, and I do also choose to do this, and I love it, and there is a buzz in it as well. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, especially with like, you know, keeping a business running and all the other stuff I do. I also do consultancy design work, which helps keep the business running and allows me to be completely and utterly selfish when I do my own collections. So yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
I think though that it's that authenticity that has made your brand so successful though, and that has carried it through for almost 20 years. Like there's not really a way to kind of artificially generate that kind of authenticity. And I'm like a massive authenticity obsessive and a geek. I just find it so interesting how this kind of intuition dictates a whole style of this whole like creative world that you've made. And actually one of the things that I talk about in my masterclasses is having like a signature handwriting and a signature style. And I talk about like ways you can try and find your own, but it's so innate with you. I was at a press launch recently. I can't remember if I've told you this already, but I was sitting with like all the jewellery press, all the jewellery editors, like Rachel Vogue and Melanie Grant and Annabelle. And I was wearing my Hannah Martin Bespoke ring. So it's Bespoke. So it wasn't from any of your collections on my cuff. And I asked them all to guess who made it, who it was by. And they all guessed you. They could all tell.
That's so nice.
Isn't that great?
Oh, I love that's amazing. Yeah.
And it's like completely bespoke. And they all could tell it was you, just from like, you know, the style, the details. But that's just testament to your sort of artistry. Your work is recognizable, but so, you know, every piece is also really different from the last as well. What do you think characterizes all your work, like pulls it all together visually? I mean, it's a big question as well.
It's so hard to sort of like zoom out with your, I mean, I always think there's obviously like themes. I think one of my big overriding themes is kind of the like masculine, feminine, hard, soft, kind of sensual, hard mix. And it's like, there's often, I think even in your pieces, it's kind of got that. So there's a sensuality to all of it. Cause I always want, in fact, Michael always laughs, who's my head of production, of like, I'm always saying, I want to be able to put it in my mouth. I want you to want to lick it. Like that's, and he's like, yeah, all right, I get it. Yeah.
That's such a good description.
It's like, it wants to be like juicy and lush and like something that you want to feel and like make you want to keep touching. But then I like the juxtaposition of the hard, like this tension that creates. So I think that's probably something that goes through. Other than that, it's like I always like, you know, things that are sculptural. Like you know, a ring should be a beautiful thing when it's off your finger as well as when it's on, which is why I'm also obsessed with like clasps and things that are visible. Like I think that's the St. Martin's. We were like, I had a tutor, Simon Fraser, who I love deeply in the second year, who now runs the MA. And I mean, I think it was Simon really that drilled this into me of like clasps and like anything with like a bought finding. It was like, and you know, every detail and like look underneath it, what happens underneath it. Yeah, do not be generic. Like just make a fucking clasp, Hannah. You know?
Make it from scratch. So I think make it your own.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the pieces that I have definitely fall into that category because they are like really sculptural and soft. But then, like on the cuff, for example, has these like ridges. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like it's ribbed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's soft and sexy. So I could put that in my mouth.
Yeah.
I do. It's that kind of authenticity that obviously I really love about you and your brand, but it also feels quite like uncompromising. in terms of not just your like design work, but all the other kind of decisions that you make and that you have made along the way. And I think that there's so many brands out there that for whatever reason, and no shade on them, they can get more diluted as they get bigger and they've been around for longer. But I feel like the Hannah Martin brand has kind of gone the other way. Like it's become more intense and like more of what it is, if that makes sense. Do you feel it's grown that way, or have you felt compromised or felt like there have been compromises behind the scenes?
I mean, there's always compromises, especially with like no investors and we're working, but the compromises I hope have been made. They're compromises that I know because it's like, I wanted to do things bigger. I wanted to do, like they're kind of more about like maybe space, team, launches, all of that kind of stuff. It's like, that's kind of the compromises. In terms of design, it's like, that's where I think potentially to my own and my brand's detriment, do not compromise. So I think there's probably pros and cons of that. And I feel that I've just got more and more confident in what I want, because that's what you do as you go through life and you get older and you understand. I also feel I knew what I wanted right from the beginning, but I listened to lots of people. So I think that I almost compromised more in the first 4 or 5 years of like what I should be doing, because it's like, you need to be doing wholesale, you need to be doing this, you should be at this show, you should be making things in silver, and this, where it's like, and I tried all of it, I tried everything, because I was like, okay, I'm going to try it all. And actually, when I actually just started to go, do you know what, I'm just going to do what I think, that's why I think it feels like it's got more and more refined, I suppose, because whether I'm right or wrong or somewhere in between, it's like I've just been more confident in making my own decisions and going with them. And I mean, I think in terms of design, I think I'm probably a nightmare to work with. I'm like really specific in what I like and what I want and details, and that's kind of always been the thread. And I've tried to, not compromise on that. And like, I never have like a commercial collection plan when I'm starting this work. It's like purely creative. I mean, it is a real luxury. And I obviously do think in the end of like, okay, we need something that's a bit more entry level, but like, I try not to do that until right at the end, when I'm like, okay, this is my vision. This is what's happening. Is there a hole in there that I can fill with something? I'm glad you see that, because I also feel like it's getting more and more like true to what my own vision, basically.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I love talking to any creative person or artist about that, like push and pull of being true to yourself, but also like having to actually sell stuff and make a living, like bringing across that element of who you are versus making commercial decisions and actually selling. But it sounds like, you've kind of gone through all these different stages and just trying stuff out, listening to different advice before you've come back to this place of sort of non-conforming and just being really, really intuitive. And that definitely comes through with the designs. I feel like there's so much, like we were saying before, with the rise of Instagram, there's so much visual stuff out there, so much to look at. It's everywhere. Everywhere is like overly designed,
basically. Yeah,
it's really overwhelming. And I think that is down to a commerciality of design and art. And I think a rejection of that, or like an unwillingness to lean too far into worrying about being commercial, results in you having really unique, like genuinely unique creations and designs that definitely stand out amongst all of that.
Thank you. That's always my
there wasn't
main,
even a question there.
It's just a love letter. Just making me feel like all warm inside.
Do you fill those gaps in your collection? Like if you do feel like, I need to add some kind of that price points here, or some more like basic earrings, or do you add that in at the last hurdle?
I sort of like, look at it and then, often it's not even, doesn't even feel like a compromise. It's like, because you can do that with like scale or materials or weight of gold. So if there is something like, I'm like, okay, that could do with, like, I can see how that one could be a kind of entry level piece. Like maybe let's do it in a different material, or like lighten it up, or, we tweak it that way. So I do try and have a kind of good spread. And it's more to do with like, once I've got that concept, then you can sort of do that, because it's like, I've got the shapes, there's a story. It's like, and it's one thing I struggle massively with, sort of mentally, I suppose. It's like, I want to make jewelry that everybody can wear. It's like, the material I work with is gold, so it means that it's a certain price point, which really frustrates me, because I have like loads of my mates that can't, people can't afford to buy into it. So it's like, I am also, I do it in a way that I try to make things so that I can have stuff that people can, there is like a point that people can enter into. I know it's not like super cheap, but that's one of my main reasons for doing that, and for looking at materials and trying to like make things that are to try and make it as democratic as possible within the world of luxury, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of an extension of having a sort of gender fluid or genderless style, in that it's not sort of for any one type of person, which is really nice. I think commerciality is really useful from like that kind of accessibility and price point perspective, but not for trends. I feel like I can't even stand that word.
No, me neither.
And I think that, the real artists are the people like creating those trends accidentally or not. And I feel like you didn't start, I think you did start a few actual design trends, but bigger than that, I do feel like you really set the scene for loads of other jewelers to come after you, just to be and to sort of look at what you've done and be able to look outside the like traditional confines of fine jewelry and just really like do what you love and like really lean into that, which I think that makes you a trendsetter.
Thanks.
Although I know you wouldn't like that word.
No, but oh no, it's all right. I'll take it. Thank you.
Take it. I'd like to just talk a little bit about your space, like your creative space. I know that you've moved studios a couple of times since I've known you. You've had 2 in Clerkenwell, and you now have this beautiful, what is it? Like I don't say townhouse or a warehouse. It's like a mixture of both, but
it's like sort of both. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
And it's like a showroom and a studio, and it's beautiful inside. It feels really like Jack the Ripper-y when you go in. I love coming in through that really dark, like Georgian facade behind those really heavy iron gates. And if you're having a party, there's like the big flames outside. It's really dramatic. It's really London-y. How important is it for you to have that physical space? And what parts of it were really important to you when you were choosing the new space that you've been in for a few years now?
It's super important for me and my creative space and where I work. And also I wanted to make this space, like the showroom downstairs, that kind of reflected like the Hannah Martin world, like the sort of, I talk about the senses all the time, and that's like, for me, it's like everything. It's like how it smells, what it looks like, how it feels, the kind of, I want people to walk in and feel like they're being kind of given a massive hug by the world. I had been in the other studio for like 10 years, and it was lovely. And we were kind of needing, it was very much a studio and people could come to it, and we had a little showroom set up, but it didn't feel particularly grown up. You had to sort of buzz on a door and walk up some steps. So I was sort of asking my landlord, who, I've had the same landlord for the whole time, like, is there any other spaces around? And I looked at loads, and actually even just before I got into the space downstairs, that alleyway, I was like, I already had good vibes. I was like, I love this. I feel like I am I felt like there was going to be like Bill Sykes up on the
it's so Dickensian,
up on the balconies, like, I was like, oh, it's so good. And actually,
exactly like
it does. It feels amazing. And actually it did not look at all like it looks now. It was like this, there was lots of, it had been an audio visual company, I think. So it was like all these tiny little rooms, like drop ceiling. But I just got, you pick up the vibes as soon as you walk into a space. And I was like, I love it. So then we did a whole, like, we just ripped it apart, basically, like ripped every wall out. That it's got this incredible ceiling that's this sort of exposed wooden ceiling. And we sort of, it almost designed itself because we were finding all these details as we were stripping it back. So that kind of gave us an extra 1.5 meters in the showroom, like ceiling height. And it was a real, like, it was friends and family, like my mum and dad, my sister, my brother-in-law, my mates, like everybody was like, we do this again. We never have that much money, so we do it all. And there was certain things. So it's like the walls. So we poured the concrete floor. The walls, when we built it all, we've put this really beautiful like clay plaster, which again is like I think textures. I respond so much to texture, and that's like this gorgeous. It's got like a little bit of mica in it, so that it's kind of got this shine. So it feels really luxurious. And then the displays are like Corten, like rusted Corten steel. So it's playing with these quite natural, sort of quite hard materials, I suppose, and putting them together in the context of that space. It's actually it used to be a grain warehouse originally. So apparently, according to my landlord, and everything's very stripped back and very like, trying to kind of respect the nature of the building, I suppose. And it just felt, we kind of did it it just felt good as we were doing it, and it kind of grew. And then the team are upstairs, and we've got a little workshop up there, and then the design studio that I've got, which is where I am now, it was a kind of like extra addition, because we did all of that work and we opened for about, I think we were open for about 2 months, and then COVID hit, so then I was shut for a couple of years. And actually I was still working and doing a lot of design work, and I had the whole space to myself. And it was only when everybody started coming back that I realized I didn't actually have a space where I could shut the door. And I can't work creatively. Because I spent so much time going into these worlds, it's like I have to have a space. So I was kind of freaking out a bit. And again, as my landlord, I was like, have you got anywhere? I actually had a huge job, like a massive consultancy job. It was like short and quick. And I was like, have you got anywhere for a few months that I could do this job, and then I'll figure it out after that? And he was like, oh, upstairs is empty, Hannah. Do you want to have a little look? And I came up, so it was above the studio. I came in, I was like, oh my God, this is not for 3 months. This is mine forever. And I don't care how much more I have to work to pay for it. So yeah, that's how I ended up with this incredible studio. And it's like up at the top of the building, and the view, I look out at St. Paul's, I can see my house at the Barbican. It's an amazing skyline, and it's just a big empty room, and I don't have anything on the walls. It's all just, so I like got mood boards everywhere. So I kind of like, it's this empty space for my mind to like fill. And it's just been extraordinarily amazing to having it. So yeah, to answer your question, I think space for me is essential. I literally couldn't work. I had to find a space, because I was like, my brain's not working here. I have to find somewhere, and it has to look good.
I often try and get in touch with you, and your team are like, she's uncontactable.
Yes. I know.
Yeah, she's no access to Hannah. Yeah, she's in design zone.
Oh, God, yeah, I have to. It's really, I sort of have to do that. Otherwise I can't work if I'm just doing like 10 minutes here or 20 minutes here. I have to do like an immersion into it. And so the only way to do it, and like that's why my team are so amazing, incredible, and it's like they let me do that, because the business can run, and I can do it, and I can have this time which I need to like work. Otherwise, I just design crap.
Does having this new, bigger, shinier, more beautiful space, do you feel like that has helped the business sort of step up and grow as well?
100%. Like without sounding too like woo-woo about this, like I feel like I've got things are coming now that I couldn't have taken on or couldn't have done if I didn't have this space. So whether that's like the universe or whether it's just like my mentality, because I know what's possible, like definitely it's helped, take things to like another level. I feel like the last 2 years, it's been, I think also obviously coming out of the pandemic, that was a real knock to everybody. So it's kind of been, I felt like just before that, we were about to launch a new collection. We had all these amazing plans. It was like the wave was just kind of rising and then it dropped really, really quickly. So I think that's also part of it. The last couple of years have been obviously coming through that. But I definitely think that space, like mentally for me, there's just given me much more possibility.
And possibly like how you're perceived by potential clients.
Yes. Yeah. It all makes a massive difference. Yeah. And even having the showroom space, it sort of allows, you've been to some of the parties. It's like, we've created this space. That was my idea with that space, was it's a space that I could invite people to, and for no other reason than pulling together a room full of amazing people and connecting people. And I sort of had this idea of like a Studio 54 for like the current London, of like, I just have all these amazing people in my network and I want them all to be in the same room, and this energy comes out of those events and like stuff happens. So even having that space and the ability to like invite people and host people and link people together, I think has also been part of this sort of growth it's a very non-commercial idea, but it sort of works in like just putting people together.
Yeah, that's why it works. I love your parties. They seem to be not that, like you say, they're not for any kind of reason or event, or, like it's not because there's a new collection. They're just for the sake of the experience. So it doesn't feel salesy, and you do connect with loads of people. And like you say, like all the people in your network, when I came with one of my friends who works for Universal Music, she was like, oh, hi. Like, you knew all these people there. What are you doing here? And it was just so nice how like everyone was connecting in this really natural, just fun way, which it does feel like community is a really big part of your brand. And it probably does on lots of levels help it to grow in some way as well. Aside from that, what do you think has helped your business to grow along the way?
Oh, it's so hard to know. I mean, the work makes people respond in a certain way. And like once people, and I think it is probably because of that authenticity. I mean, that's what people always say to me. It's like, I don't see anything else like it. So it's like when someone connects with it, it tends to be a connection like for life, and people come back, and it's like, and then that kind of grows. So that has definitely helped build this kind of a community. And also that I love people and I really love like meeting people and talking to people and hearing people's stories, and like that also is really, I think that's been a part of it. Like I travel a lot and I meet people along the way, and that they kind of become part of this bigger world, and then the words, it's real word of mouth. I think sometimes it's like right place, right time stuff, or talking to the right, also I hate the word luck because I don't think anything's luck. I think it's like, it's putting yourself out there. I think that you then end up with these kind of opportunities. Definitely finding the right team to work with. Like I couldn't do any of this without the people that are around me, which has taken a bit of hit and miss over the years, which, as you know, there's been some not such great experiences. I couldn't be doing anything else. It's like, I love what I do so much that actually there's not even a question of like not doing it for me. So I think that's also like, I'll goddamn make it work, because it's my only option. It's like, I don't have a plan B. So I guess that sort of also helps. I mean, the kind of classic things as well of like PR and sort of exposure. And, we've never had like, I've not been a brand that's had like advertising budget. So I'm really reliant on really great relationships with some of the amazing jewelry journalists that are like friends of both of ours, and like they've been super supportive. So I think all of that stuff feeds into growth, I suppose.
And like you say, it's the tenacity as well from you, that comes from you, that makes it all happen, because you want to keep it, you want to keep it all going. Like you say, it's everything. But yeah, also I think that you do the sort of consulting work that you do, and I know that you're an associate lecturer at St. Martin's as well. Those things, as well as like, bringing funds into the business, also kind of a diversifying. And I'm sure you learn a lot from doing those keeping yourself really immersed in the business as well.
And it really sort of creatively is amazing for me, because it's like, if you're obviously, what I do for myself is like, you know, pure Hannah Martin. But I think if I was just doing that, I'd start repeating myself, you know, like what's amazing about the consultancy is like, it forces me to look at different references. It forces me to think in the mind of somebody else what they want, which then sparks new stuff. So I'm not kind of getting into that, you know, I'd hate to get to a point where it's like, oh yeah, you know, same old Hannah Martin, seen that before. Like, I think it helps to keep me interested, for one thing, and alive in what I'm looking at and how I'm kind of, how I'm working during COVID. That's what stopped me going under. It's like, I can, you know, I have different, like, you know, sales basically stopped for like a year and a half. We couldn't really sell. Well, we did a bit, but, you know, so there's been times when it's like really helped the business keep going. And, you know, it does extend the network, and it's like, whether it's like my name on things or not my name on things, it's me being in lots of different worlds.
How important is bespoke work? Is it a big part of your business?
Yeah, it is. And it's always been, that's been a very steady part of the business, which is really nice. And it's actually, I love it, because it's kind of doing a collection, you know, it's like I'm doing a collection with a character, but it's a real person. So, and, you know, and I love people. So it's like, it's always really, I love doing it. It's a collaborative process, as you know, and it's like, you're working with somebody. It's not just all about me. It's like, okay, obviously someone's come to me because they like what I do, but then it's also got to be the perfect thing for that person. So everything's completely different, and you have this sort of design brief that's different from if I had a design brief for myself. Yeah, it's always been a kind of steady sort of flow through the business, and it is, it's really important to us, and also to the cash flow.
I was going to ask about bridal and engagement, because those two words, even saying them to you feels slightly wrong, because obviously you're such a kind of non-conformist brand. But I would always advise jewelers when they're starting out to at least like consider how they might make something as ubiquitous as a solitaire ring, for example, like an engagement ring. How would they make it their own? How would they make it recognizable? Because it's quite a good blank canvas.
It is. And it shows people what can be done as well. And in fact, you know, with Bespoke over the years, it's like, I'd say at least 70% is around engagement or wedding rings, and in whatever kind of relationship that may be, which is sort of what then drove me to launch. I couldn't bring myself to call it bridal.
I know,
because
I know.
But it's a collection of rings. I called it Mad Love.
It's great for lovers.
Yeah, for lovers, I've called it, because for me, it's like, that's what it is. It's like, I'm not against marriage, and I'm not against any kind of, but I'm against the kind of institution of that being a one way to do something for anybody. So it's like, okay, there's loads of options of how to mark a relationship, which I love the idea. And jewelry is so precious in that way. And it's the perfect vehicle to do that. It marks a relationship and love and stories. So, but that can be anything. It's like, and I've actually, you know, again, over the years, it's like I've done loads of different stuff. Like friends of mine who have got 2 kids who are not married had a party for us all to celebrate their 10th anniversary of being together, and I made rings for them. There's 0 link to marriage, but it's like a signifier of a relationship. So that was the idea with that collection, was like, do you know what? Fuck that. It's nothing to do. Yeah, you can definitely use them as engagement rings. You can use them for whatever kind of way you need to celebrate your love for 1 or 2 or 3, however many people of whatever sex you may choose. Do it however you want to do it. Yeah, we've had all sorts of variety within that of relationship. Again, I'm just like, do we have to still stick with that wording? And again, it's probably, I had so many discussions with like more, you know, my manager and a kind of more commercial side of the business of like, yeah, but bridal's what people Google search. Bridal's this. I'm like, I can't do it because it wouldn't be authentic. And it's like, I don't believe that in it.
No, but I also think that all those people that the word like bride and wedding are just, anathema to them. I think that you're creating something for those kind of people, of which there are plenty, who just don't connect to that whole world, that whole traditional chintzy bride land. It's not for everyone. So how do you make like a traditional solitaire feel like a Hannah Martin design? Or that I'm sure there are millions of ways.
I guess I tried. It's like, it's about the details for me. And it's like, and I've done plenty of like, single stone diamond rings, and I love them. And I love diamonds, and they're pretty damn special. And for me, then, it's about the detail and still keeping sculptural. So whether it's like the setting, if there's something happening underneath it or around it, or the band, I think I always have a problem with this idea that jewelry is like the thing that holds the stone. Has always bothered me. I'm like, it needs to be completely integral. And actually, I did that collection White Heat, which was a series of 6 diamond rings to challenge that. I can't remember when I did that, like 7 or 8, 9 years ago, because I had such a problem with diamonds, because I just felt it was like, oh, what? So I'm basically just making a house to house a stone, and it's all about the stone. And like, no, I want to make things exactly that are integral, that there's a reason for being, there's a reason for the housing, there's a reason for the stone, like it all makes sense together. So that's what I try and do even with solitaires. It's like, okay, let's give it a purpose. Like, it just needs to feel like it's meaningful. And it's always nice when there's like a link to something, or like a little secret somewhere, or it's like a stone underneath a stone, or like little details like that can kind of help as well.
I would recognize your solitaire ring, I'm sure.
Thank you. I hope so.
Your signature style. This is and probably an annoying question, but what mistakes do you think you've made like along the way?
Oh God, and so many.
Do you think what do you think you've learnt from them?
Oh God, I mean, I don't know where to start. I'm trying to think of big ones. I feel like I've learned everything. I feel like I make mistakes every day and learn from them. There's definitely been a choice of team or partners have been rather large mistakes and almost fatal. And I think a lot of those decisions, I think I've learned, and I guess this is as you just get older and have more life experience of like trusting your instincts. I'm definitely better at doing that. Like listening if there's a little like, not sure about this. I mean, getting better at doing a cash flow. I mean, I've had so many times like in the early days where it was just like, because I didn't know what I was doing, and also because money was just so scary and I didn't have any, and I had a ton of credit cards. I just went like, la, 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 and like ignored, there's been like, like debt collection letters coming through the door in like the first few years. And it was just like, basically ignoring things. I learned was definitely not the way to deal with stuff. That is one thing that I would say to like people starting out. If, it's like facing up to whatever the problems are and figuring out a solution is way better than the like, I can't cope, I'm just going to ignore everything and hope it's going to be all right. I try really hard not to be unaware of what is going on in the business. So again, that was a mistake I made before, where I've kind of like trusted somebody, given over, also gone like, okay, I'm just going to do the creative side. That's and it's also a bit like, let the girl do the creative stuff and don't worry, your pretty little head will deal with the rest of it. Doesn't work, turns out. So that was another thing of like, I'm super aware of everything that's going on, looking at cash flows, understanding what's going to happen. Not, it's not trusting someone, but it's just like, I'm not stupid. I can do that stuff. So I just need to like, I don't love it, but I kind of have to do it because actually it's taking control of my business, which is like, yeah. So that I'd say was probably a big learning curve.
Oh, that's a good answer. That is a good answer. Do you feel surprised to find yourself working in luxury?
Totally.
It's quite a sort of rarefied industry.
It's such a weird world for me to be in. I love it for that. And I feel like a total outsider. I've kind of learnt the codes, I suppose, as I've gone along, but there's often, and I've dealt with that. Again, that was something that as a starting out and in this world that I didn't know the language, like it's a different language, and it's like, it's linked with your upbringing and what you've been exposed to and like all of that stuff. I didn't have any, it's, I hate to use a really corny, but it's a bit like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman, like, with the snails. It's like, that's me everywhere. I just don't know what the fuck is going on. Probably do really inappropriate things. But, over the years, I've kind of learned the codes of the world that I'm in. But I also like being a bit of an outsider in it as well. And it is a weird world to end up in, but I kind of like that because there's so much I love about it. And actually, when you get to the root of what luxury is, like, it's so special, and it's craft and it's art, and it's like, yeah, there's this huge commercial kind of world built up around it, which is also good because it keeps the whole thing moving. But actually, it's soul. It's like, it's art in product of whatever we're all doing, and that is a really beautiful kind of thing. So it's an amazing world, but a very, if you'd asked me when I was like 17 in the world I'd end up in, it would not be here.
Well, we're glad you are here. And how long do you think it takes to grow a luxury brand? I mean, it's taken you almost 20 years.
Yeah. I think people do it quicker, but I think it also depends on if you've got a big investor. It depends on like how you're doing it. It depends on the decisions you made. Like, I don't think I've purposely chosen a non-commercial route, and there's also been various kind of huge things happen along the way that has maybe slowed the growth, but also I feel like it's grown in a perfect way, and it's been this very sort of controlled and like steady and like building very strong foundations kind of growth, rather than as a sort of flash in the pan kind of like big for a second and then disappearing. I've just kept on going. It's like, you can't get rid of me, guys. So I think it's really hard to say. I don't know basically how long it takes.
I think, like you say, one of the most important things is just like growing into yourself and trusting your gut and your intuition and believing in yourself. It sounds like to me like all these steps you've had along the way, like even like getting into Central St. Martin's and like that establishment, kind of raising your expectations of yourself, getting this, brilliant funding, which also must have made you feel really great. Like, that's a really great achievement. And then, moving into your huge, beautiful showroom, it's kind of like these steps that lift you up that you perhaps didn't feel were possible to someone like you. And yet here you are, which is just brilliant. Thank you so much, Hannah. It's just been so gorgeous to speak to you, as it always is. And I probably could just keep going and ask you about loads and loads more things. But
I could keep chatting. So we'll do a round 2.
We should, part 2.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for taking the time. You really are just such an incredible designer and businesswoman and artist. And you're just making this massive mark on the jewellery world, which I am just truly grateful for. So thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.